There's nothing worse than coming off a roller coaster disappointed. Sometimes it's because we overhype a ride. Other times it's because we ride something in less than optimal conditions. So today, I'm going to count down the 10 worst coaster disappointments I have experienced. Number 10, the Yankee Cannonball at Canobie Lake Park after the GCI retracking. Canobie takes incredible care of their star attraction. It has always been incredibly smooth despite it being 90 years old. And until 2016, it delivered some nice airtime on almost every hill. So imagine my shock to find a coaster with hardly any airtime left after GCI retracked the coaster that off-season. The coaster is smoother than ever, and it's gradually breaking in, but it's still a shell of its former self. Number 9, Banshee at Kings Island. I really liked Banshee after my rides in 2016 and 2018. It was a fast and powerful invert. But my rides last year had a terrible rattle to them. I was stunned a B&M this new could rattle so badly. I've heard my bad rides could have been related to a specific train I rode in, so I'm hopeful this can be remedied on a future visit because that rattle ruined the ride for me. Number 8, Space Mountain at Tokyo Disneyland. I love California's Space Mountain, and it appeared the one in Tokyo was a clone. But I came off this one underwhelmed. It was still fun, but it ran considerably slower and was missing the wild laterals towards the end. This one also ran in complete silence. I know some like that, but I love the soundtrack in the California version. Number 7, Wild Thing at Valley Fair. Steel Force and Mamba certainly aren't world beaters as far as hypercoasters go. These two Morgan Hypers are lacking in the intensity department, but they do at least offer some sort of floater airtime on every hill. On Wild Thing, the first half was solid, but the second half was killed by a brutal mid-course brake run. After coming to an almost dead stop, Wild Thing crawled back to the station devoid of any airtime. Number 6, Olympia Looping. Many consider Olympia Looping to be Schwarzkopf's masterpiece. In fact, some call it one of the best coasters in the world. And I think it's very overrated. Yes, the 5 inversions pull some serious G's, but everything else is pretty lackluster. None of the drops nor helixes do anything for me, and to be a top coaster I feel like the whole ride has to deliver from start to finish. Number 5, Lightning Racer at Hershey Park. In my early days as an enthusiast, I placed a lot of stock into the Golden Ticket Awards. As a result, I was really looking forward to Lightning Racer, a perennial top 10 wooden coaster. Yes, the racing aspect was very cool, but the layout was arguably the tamest GCI has ever developed. It had hardly any airtime hills, and the transitions were more drawn out than GCI's later creations. Number 4, Troy at Toverland. I always heard Troy was arguably the best GCI, and since I was riding it on a smoldering hot summer day, I figured I was riding this coaster in peak conditions. But instead, I came off scratching my head. It was certainly a fun coaster, but I thought it was just an average GCI. It just didn't do anything to stand out from the other GCIs out there. In fact, I prefer Joris and the Drac, a coaster that receives far less acclaim, more the following day. Number 3, Superman at Parque Warner Madrid. Often considered a contender for the best B&M floorless, Superman was a major disappointment. For one, the trains had a violent rattle. 2, the inversions were quite forceless, and that's an issue on a coaster that has 7 inversions. The only redeeming quality in Superman was the airtime on the first drop at Camelback, but it ended up being towards the middle of the pack as far as floorless coasters go for me. Number 2, Kawasaki at Tobu Zoo. Intamin Mega-Lites are one of the most praised coaster layouts in the world. They're revered for their airtime, and many consider them better than the full-scale hypercoasters out there. But this coaster was merely good, not great. The S-hills in the middle of the ride had some aggressive ejector airtime, but the other hills were considerably tamer. I've since heard that Kawasaki has a slower lift than the other Mega-Lites, and this coaster was hardly cycled when I visited Tobu Zoo, so I'm hopeful the other Mega-Lites offer far superior ride experiences. Number 1, Medusa Steel Coaster at Six Flags Mexico. Many consider Medusa to be among the RMC's best creations. In fact, it placed first in TPR's inaugural steel coaster poll a few years ago. However, I have found it to be among the worst RMCs. Medusa is still a great ride, but I think it's overrated based on my rides. but I know I have not ridden Medusa in peak form. On my first visit, it was still running slow as a side effect from the VR conversion. On my second visit, the coaster was running faster, but it was running a shortened 5-car train. The coaster was definitely more intense on my second visit, but the airtime strength still paled in comparison to the other RMCs that I have ridden. So those are my 10 most disappointing coasters. What are your most disappointing roller coasters? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Subscribe for more coaster content here at Canopy Coaster, and thank you for listening.